Okay guys, so this is the final paragraph, the fourth paragraph for the dominant ideas of New Labour. This one's all about the constitutional reforms that they promised to put in, mainly devolution. So for this one, what I want you to think about is what we know about what was happening in Britain, but particularly in Scotland during the 1980s. We had a Conservative government. We had a Conservative government who specifically were very against the idea of any kind of devolution, mainly because they didn't want to do anything that was going to risk their ability to continue to get elected every year. They could win the election every single year without having that much support in Scotland, as is kind of still the case now. So the Conservatives were blocking any attempts at Home Rule, as it was kind of known, or any plans for devolution. Now Labour, remember, were being quite cynical about this. We're trying to think, what kind of things were Labour going to do in order to change their election results that have been happening throughout the 1980s and the run up to this 1997 election? So the main thing they did was they had a promise of devolution for Scotland. In 1992, they were really in a sort of a bad state. That was the election where we thought they were going to win, because up until that point, the Conservatives have been doing increasingly more unpopular things in Scotland, particularly things like the poll tax, which you might have heard of. So after the 1982 election, when the Conservatives won yet again without much support from Scotland, there was a growing feeling in Scotland that the Conservatives didn't have, it says on the slide there, Scotland's best interests at heart. So what I want you to think about, what you have to explain for this one, is that the New Labour under Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, interestingly by the way, Tony Blair, Scottish, born in Edinburgh, went to private school in Scotland. Gordon Brown, as you'll know, Scottish. So two kind of prominent Scottish politicians using that kind of, we are Scottish and we're not the Conservative Party who've essentially ignored you for the last 10-15 years, and we're going to promise to have not necessarily devolution, but a referendum on devolution, giving the Scottish people the choice as to whether or not they want to have it. So after the 1997 election, when they won, they said, we'll have this referendum and give the people of Scotland the choice. And the idea, as it says there, was to set up a Scottish Parliament, as we know did happen in 1999. Now, importantly, for our analysis of whether or not this was successful, the Conservatives were opposed to this. They campaigned actively, saying, if you vote for Labour, it'll be the end of the United Kingdom. In some ways, they've been proved right in that there's been an increase in nationalist support ever since devolution was brought about in 1999. Some people, on the other hand, do say that if Labour hadn't introduced this devolution, then Scotland probably would have actually became independent, because there had been such a groundswell of popular opinion for it. So what we're interested in, though, is they promised a referendum on devolution, which they then had. And the result of that, you could argue, was that Labour increased their share of the vote in Scotland by 6%. It was already quite high in Scotland. But crucially, the Conservatives dropped by around 8%. And that works out, meaning that the Conservatives lost all 11 of their MPs in Scotland, which meant there was no Conservative MPs at all in Scotland, with Labour having the vast majority and obviously winning the election overall as well. So that's kind of what you need to know for the last paragraph. It's quite a short paragraph by comparison to the other ones. You have to do a bit of explaining and describing the situation in the 1980s. You know a bit of this already from the Stephen Loock stuff in the second phase of power, talking about how it just wasn't something that was discussed, it wasn't on the table, the Conservatives were actively against it, so Thatcher kind of quite effectively used her agenda setting ability by being the party of government, there being no devolution, to just not discuss it, and it wasn't a thing. And you could argue that Tony Blair and New Labour benefited from this by being able to use it as a kind of bargaining chip, something to promise the voters in Scotland that if you vote for us, you're going to get this opportunity to have a referendum on a devolved parliament. Even better for them, they knew that the Conservatives would be against it, so they wouldn't just get votes for devolution, they would also know that the Conservatives were the lowest votes as well, which it says at the bottom on the slide there. That ended up meaning that they lost all 11 of their MPs leaving the party with no representation at all in Scotland. So that's a definite impact you can evaluate in terms of their electoral success. Okay, so the next thing I'll put up, guys, is going to be just about how we put all this together. We've now covered 4 different aspects of New Labour dominant ideas. So I'll finish this video now, and you can take a wee note on that stuff in your jotter.